compared to other forms of marketing, it's potentially the best one. Of course, I'm biased because that's what we do, but when you compare it side by side, it really is probably one of the most effective in terms of cost and conversions. The search engines tend to index text the easiest because it's the robots can read the words on the page, and then they can piece together certain segments of your content for all different kinds of searches. So we'll use software like Ahrefs for keyword research, or also SEMrush, those kinds of things. You can use free software.
And that's next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. So, the big question is this: how are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough, use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams? Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Hey listeners and viewers, we have created a tremendous community of bootstrappers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ambitious, resourceful, and want to get things done. We brainstorm, support, and help each other out. Come join us. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. That is bootstrapping.group. If you like this video, do not forget to hit that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button and give us your feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tetranoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. And do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content. Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with Daniel Lofaso. So Daniel is the president and founder of Digital Elevator, which is a digital marketing agency specializing in SEO and content marketing for high growth companies. The agency has also helped several clients go from a startup to multi-million-dollar valuations in less than 2 years. That's awesome. He also co-owns 2 startups, Hemp Healthy, which is a CBD company, and Humidify, a medical marijuana doctor and dispensary directory. Let's welcome Daniel. Daniel, we are so excited to have you here.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So just so that we can go get to know you better, can you tell us a little bit about your background, your experience?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so Digital Elevator, the company that own primary business, is an SEO and content marketing company, as you mentioned. So we help people rank in the search engines and drive visitors to their websites. And we also create unique kinds of content that helps make them influential or brings a lot of brand awareness to them or some of the causes that they talk about. So whether that's written content or video content or like an infographic, we also help with that kind of thing as well. And we do quite a bit of web development, website building, and integrations. So kind of fully integrated marketing kind of was what you could say. We bring the traffic in, and then we work on the sales funnels of the websites and email marketing. But we also design the websites and create much of the content for our clients.
That's great. And so, search engine marketing obviously is very important, but the landscape of digital marketing has been changing quite a bit over the years. We have things like email marketing now, we have sales funnels, we have social media marketing. So in the mix of all this, where does search engine SEO and content marketing fit in? Like, how important are they for any growing business?
Yeah, I think every business has to really consider what the most effective channel is for them. In the perfect world, all businesses don't have unlimited budgets to do all kinds of marketing. If we did, you say do it all, because there's an argument that potentially says it all works. But for SEO, I think most people are starting with search engines, or they're asking questions of a search engine, And the beautiful thing about search engine marketing is that they're actively looking for you, whereas some of the other kind of forms of marketing, you call them outbound versus inbound, you're just appearing in front of them. So for example, a billboard, you're just appearing there, or a television commercial, you're appearing there. So you're just hoping that it hits enough people. Whereas with SEO, they're actively looking for your service or maybe a blog topic on something they're interested in. And if you can rank for that, then I think, you already have their interest. They're almost already qualified. So I think compared to other forms of marketing, it's potentially the best one. Of course, I'm biased because that's what we do. But when you compare it side by side, it really is probably one of the most effective in terms of cost and conversions.
That's great. And now the search engine landscape, search engine optimization landscape itself changes quite a bit as Google comes up with new ranking algorithms and whatnot. So how do you cope with all those changes that are constantly happening?
Yeah, good question. The term white hat SEO comes up and kind of gray hat and trying to game the search engines. I think that's where people go wrong. We've never been a company that tries to game the search engines or outdo all the PhDs at Google, because I'm not smarter than they are. But so what we do is we just do the tried and true things. Really what we're doing with SEO and our clients is we're helping them build a brand. And if you build a brand the proper way, with a good quality product and then good marketing and getting in front of the right people, then the good SEO will follow. Of course, we're reverse engineering the algorithm and blending that with good digital brand building. But for the most part, our clients aren't really affected by algorithms. And I can say that confidently because we're not always chasing the latest and greatest thing, because over the years, it's always been about really good content and link building. And link building comes as a result of outreach and promotion and, actively teaming up with other sites in your vertical. So we've been lucky that the algorithms haven't, destroyed any of our client sites overnight. But I think that's due to setting client expectations for how slow SEO is and can be, and then just doing what Google says to do, plus what makes sense from a logical standpoint for marketing.
Yeah. And you brought up an important point, which is, the time it takes for Google to actually start ranking your site. So what is a typical period that people can, when they start the SEO process, they can expect to see some results?
Yeah, that really depends on the stage of the website. So I think if we're talking about startups, and let's assume it's a brand new website or a brand new business, then they're not going to have what's called any domain authority in the eyes of Google, which is basically just like an algorithm factor that says, what's your potential to rank. And so if you're really aggressive and you're brand new, you have a brand new site, I think it can take 8 months, 12 months, but it also depends on your vertical. So obviously if it's really competitive, car insurance is really competitive, or finance is really competitive generally. So different verticals will take different amount of time. If you're trying to sell palm trees in Alaska, then, you could probably rank in a week. But so there's all these factors that come into play with every business and how aggressive they are and what other kinds of marketing they're doing and maybe who else they're in front of digitally or on social, and if they're blending those other things effectively. But I mean, it's hard to just say there's a round number for everybody. But I used to tell clients 6 months, but now I've been telling them more 8, 12 months if they have no previous SEO on their sites or for their brands.
I see.
Yeah.
And obviously SEO goes hand in hand with the original content, interesting content. Do you agree with that statement first of all, or can we get around this problem of making this content and then having Google rank it or other search engines rank it?
Yeah, I agree. So it really all starts with the words on the page. I mean, that's the first and foremost thing. If Google's so smart with relevancy and context that you first have to start there. You you can't take something that's not related and say, oh, I see that there's keyword volume behind that, and my topic's kind of like that. Can I rank for that? It doesn't really work like that, So I think when you're creating content, you have to first, you really should look at what Google is bringing up in the search engine results page, the SERPs, for what you're trying to rank for, and see who's there, see who's ranking, and see what Google determines as context, because sometimes the context of what Google determines in the rankings can vary from what you think it might be. So, for example, we did something with a dental company, and one of the products that they were featuring was called Lumineers, and that was years ago, before the band Lumineers came out, and the Lumineers band became really popular. So the context for a search for Lumineers changed from this dental product to the bands, and it's just important to know that if you or somebody may be trying to rank one or the other, how Google's interpreting it, and then that will tell you, oh, hey, can we SEO this to the top? Is it even contextually relevant enough? So, it all goes back to that content initially and those words on the page, I think. So.
Awesome. Okay, that's an interesting story. Now, what are some of the strategies that you recommend for building this content? How often do we need to come up with new content, and what kind of content does well with Google or search engines?
Sure, that's a great question. I think that's something that a lot of people will have different schools of thought on, and I think if we continue to aim the conversation towards startups, I think we don't need to always say, hey, you need to produce a blog a week or something, because that's a lot of people are like, oh, I need to do 4 a month, and more is better. But our approach, and with our clients who don't have unlimited budgets, we usually we'll take one really long form blog into to kind of 2-part tier that question, something 1,200 words, 2,000 words, really long form, in-depth topic that covers all subtopics underneath it, and then we'll produce something like that once a month or every other month, rather than saying, hey, let's create 400 word blogs for you. And then what we do is we spend time promoting that blog post so that it actually ranks, because it's one thing to publish content, and then it's one thing to try to promote it enough so that it ranks. And then it's another thing entirely to determine beforehand your ability and potential to rank, and that kind of goes back to just the competitive analysis. So there's all these factors that we take in, and, for a startup that can be difficult because they probably don't have all the software tools that we have that tell us the whole story about content. But, if I was going to say, focus on this, you're going to have your core content, your foundational content, like your service pages, for example, and your about us, and maybe your pricing or whatnot. And then, after that's all built, then month to month, you're probably focusing on your blog and getting your blog out there. And the question is, how often should I do this? And for me, and for a lot of popular SEO companies, we'd rather create one really large asset and then rank that, rather than create a bunch of little assets that have no chance of ranking. Because if you look at the data, it suggests that really long content tends to rank best, it tends to earn the most links, it tends to get shared the most on social. So it really is going to do the best for you to do something long form as opposed to a bunch of short form content.
Awesome. That's great piece of advice. And now moving that concept of creating content, you mentioned videos, you mentioned audio, maybe presentation. So all these new formats of content are coming up. In terms of what I understand, obviously at this stage, search engines are more about text. So is it changing? How important is video? How important is other formats of content?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the search engines tend to index text the easiest, because it's the robots can read the words on the page, and then they can piece together certain segments of your content for all different kinds of searches. So just so startups or other people know, kind of, they say something like 70-80% of all searches are completely unique. And so, I mean, it's probably the easiest thing to do to write content. I think, anybody can write a blog, not necessarily anybody can create a video and then edit it. It is pretty easy to write a video now. I mean, create videos with like, for example, my phone shoots in 4K, and then you can actually edit it in YouTube. And we can do keyword research in YouTube, and we can do keyword research for podcasting and all these different platforms. But in terms of the easiest approach, you'd probably say text-based content, but that's also probably the most competitive because it's the easiest. So I do like that these new platforms like podcasting I think is really blowing up right now. Video marketing is really blowing up, and I think people are still kind of scared to approach it because they think it's really expensive. But I think if you blend proper content marketing with video marketing, you'll get a good return on it. And sometimes people just do that, but also you can do a video and then accompany it with a textual blog to highlight the same points you talked in the video. So to your point about Google indexing, you can get the benefits of YouTube and the benefits of Google, the regular Google, and search too. So I really like that process. And in fact, if we do a video type piece of content marketing for a client, then we always will write a blog alongside it just to get the most impact out of that piece of content.
Great. And now one question I wanted to ask is people who are aspiring entrepreneurs. I talk to many of them almost every day, and they sort of get stuck in the realm of, okay, I need to raise money, I need to do all these things before I can even talk about my product or service. But I tell them, hey, you have all this information about your potential client, about your potential product or service. Maybe start producing some content about it. What do you think about that strategy? Should they wait for the official launch before they can start to create this content, or should they start it even when they are conceptualizing their startup?
Yeah, I think it helps to just start getting content out there. And in the startup world, we always talk about operating lean and proof of concept, which I think a lot of people skip. And sometimes maybe with content you can get some things out there and get a pulse. Of course you have to have a little bit of a community, but with social media you can pay for a community. With relatively low budget, you can throw $20 out at an idea and see how people respond to it, and see their comments, and maybe have a couple conversations. So I'm always in favor of producing content and kind of either telling your brand story. People are interested in that. It might not rank well, but it will resonate with people. But if you are going to write content, and of course we're all pressed for time, especially startups, right? There's so million things to do. It's a small team. So if you're going to write the content, you should be intentional about it, and spend a little time reading some blogs on how to do keyword research and learn about a little bit of competition, and then write content. Don't just write blogs. And I think a lot of people just blog for the sake of blogging. And I think it's a waste of your time, because it's kind of like if a tree fell in the woods thing, nobody hears it. And if you write a blog, is anybody going to read it? If you don't do the right things, nobody's going to read it. So you just wasted it 2 hours of your time and for blogging for the sake of blogging. So, I think also part of that is people are afraid to give away their secret sauce with information about their business. And, you don't want to do that, especially if you have something really novel. Sure. But, some of the best companies and the best content marketing is giving away a bunch of free information. We have specific blogs on our website that say, this is exactly how you market this industry. And if you really take the content from the blog and implement it, you can do it on your own. But those types of pieces of content are actually the ones that create the most leads for us. They're like, oh, you look like an expert in this, so I want to talk to you. And so it's actually not like you gave away the information, but they want to talk to you. So it's actually, it's shown to help when you give it all away.
Okay, that's great. And so if you are at the liberty to sort of, walk us through the process, that'll be amazing. So, so that you can, our audience can actually understand how this thing works.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So for a startup, let's say it's a software startup, right? A lot of you probably see most startups nowadays, and that we talk to are building some software as a service, some SaaS or something, and So they need to build out content. I'm actually building out some content for a new software client we have right now who has a very thin website. And this same advice could probably be used for a non-software website too. So, I like to build what I call kind of like the content hub. It's like you think of a tire and you got the hub in the middle and all the prongs that go out. And so that kind of stuff starts with logic, so you have your home page, which is probably going to be redundant about everything else that's in your website. I'd like to have a features page, or a services page if it's not a SaaS product. So the features page will be more along the lines of benefits. I like to really sell benefits rather than features. People like to know, how is this going to help me? And so I encourage that. And then you can have the features page, that gets more in depth and more technical. Or if you have services, then generally, rather than having one dedicated service page, I like to break out each service for its own individual page. It gives you a better chance of ranking each of those things. So, for example, if you had a gym software and you're like, okay, personal training, point of sale, personal training, client management, and those would be individual pages rather than just one page that lists all of them. Because one, it doesn't give you the search engine benefit of indexing those pages for those specific searches, but two, it just paints a better picture for your user experience, and everything should point back to that. And then, FAQs are a great content hub piece for that initial foundation of a website, as well as, just general questions like, how does it work? Or why is this good for me? Or why is it different than the competition? Those kind of things. Or, who's it for? Those kind of things. Or industries is a really great thing. Like, what industries do you serve? And you list the industries. So that's good for SEO. It's also good for user experience. And somebody's like, oh, I'm in that industry. It looks like this product, service, software can work for me. And then once you get that stuff done, and I usually find that kind of core website is 15, 20 pages, and you can look on any really big brand website and you'll see, all the pages in the top menu, all the services or the software, the benefits or the pricing. That's all the static content that I'm kind of talking about. You build it and it more or less remains unchanged. And then once that is good to go, then you can kind of move on to the content marketing piece, and you start ideating what blogs you need to create and maybe, tell the brand story on the side, but being intentional about what you create and how you research it, and the keyword research and the competition, and really focusing on what is this blog, how does this blog relate to my end goal? If you start with your end goal, which is, I want to sell more of my consulting services. So, well, what do I need to talk about that makes people trust my consulting services? And then if the blog topic doesn't do well to answer that end goal, then it's probably not a good topic. But if it does do well, you're like, okay, that's something we want to put on the content calendar. And so then you just decide if you're going to do one a month like we talked about, or every other month, and how long, and if you're going to get graphic designers involved, and that sort of thing. And then another thing that we like to do with clients in terms of content, once we start bringing people to the site, or if we're going to use a paid approach, for example, LinkedIn, we'll create an ebook, and then we can put the ebook on LinkedIn and then just ask for an email, and then we'll put them on an email marketing list. And that's a really good thing to do, especially for software. Software companies get a lot of benefit out of that, and LinkedIn for relatively low cost, and it works quickly if you have no site traffic.
Awesome, that's great. And so when you produce the content, you mentioned keyword research, and you mentioned there are certain things that you should follow to make sure the content is actually read and well received. So what are some of those characteristics? Like what are your suggestions or guidance around building valuable content?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I think this is one of the most challenging things for startups, because for us, it's very software reliant. So we'll use software like Ahrefs for keyword research, or also SEMrush, those kinds of things. You can use free software, but in terms of blog content and the type of content that's really going to be helping you rank and move the needle, it's it's hard to use free tools like Google Keyword Planner, because with Ahrefs, and so part of the process would be, so I would either take a topic or just visit a competitor's website, and we can reverse engineer a competitor's website, for example, and say, oh, look at this topic. They rank pretty well for it, and we can definitely write something better than that. And then with the software that we use, for example, it tells you how difficult it is. There's a keyword difficulty score. And if we determine that the website is in a place to go after something based on a competition, it's an index between 0 and 100. So let's say you're a newer website and you want to try to rank for something. You want to go something that's low competition, but decent volume in terms of how many searches per month for that particular topic. You see big brands like Forbes can write anything because of the power of their brand, their domain authorities, 90, 95. The rest of us don't have the luxury to do that. So what we have to do is be intentional about the topics that we go after, because there might not be any chance that we can rank for them just based on the competition that's out there. So that's what I mean about being intentional. So if you learn how to use a tool, and I just wrote an article that's on Search Engine Journal, we can share it. It talks about how to use Ahrefs, the software, in 3 ways to find different topics. You can start with a competitor and go through their blog. You can actually sort through their most popular pages on their site to see what they rank for, and then you can actually filter the pages by how competitive they are. So you can go after some stuff that's really not competitive, but still has good volume. And that's the trade-off. It's like, obviously the topics that have the highest volume are going to be the most competitive, but there are topics that are kind of that low-hanging fruit, I like to call it, that we can almost write and then not have to do things like link building or pay a lot of money in social promotion. So it's really reverse engineering competition or looking for opportunities with software, and then coming up with topics, and then having your writer or yourself exhaust that topic in the blog post, and then publishing it, and then promoting it, and then hoping that it works out the way that it should. And we've had a lot of success on that. It's kind of one of the things that we're most known for at Digital Elevator is finding those kind of topics that you don't need to be Forbes to rank for them, but we constantly beat Forbes and these other guys because they don't target it the same way we do. So it's very intentional SEO. And if a small business owner can take anything away, it's that you can get a piece of software, $150 a month, and utilize it to really capitalize on content marketing opportunities and being intentional. Because if you're going to write content without doing that, it's probably not going to rank, and you're probably not going to drive any traffic to your site. So it's almost a waste of time. So that's that. So that's kind of the process. I hate to lean so much on software, but that's kind of the reality of it.
No, this is amazing. A lot of people don't really understand how this thing works. So thanks a lot for explaining that in detail. And obviously you've lifted the curtains on how proper content marketing can be done, and as you put it, intentional SEO can be done. Now, is there any obvious mistakes that you see people make other than what we already touched upon? Are there any other mistakes that you observe that people should know about, that they should not be doing? Maybe lack of images, maybe formatting of the article, something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do wrong. I think, and not to be redundant, but maybe using volume as your only basis for topics. The amount of searches per month in terms of volume as your only basis, because that's not going to help you. It's going to kind of leave you hanging. Not looking at Google to see if the topic that you are considering, and you type it in, type a couple keyword variations. If you are somebody looking for a topic like that, see who's ranking in Google. That's a mistake, because you need to know if it's huge household name brands there that you'll be up against, and chances are you probably won't outrank them without a really good strategy. Short form content does not really rank well. the 400 words, 300 words. Don't waste your time. It's very unlikely to rank. If you have the luxury of paying a lot of money on social to promote things, then that's okay. But if we're talking purely organic SEO, then that's a mistake. And then just poor writing, either outsourcing it to people who don't care about your brand, don't understand your brand, don't understand what they're talking about. You can always tell the difference between somebody who's a real expert on a topic and then somebody who's just researched a couple of blogs and they're pulling it over, which it looks more like a hired writer. And I mean, we use hired writers, and they're very professional, but sometimes going very cheap with writers will cost you in the long run. So that's a mistake. Formatting, I think blogs are going more narrow in terms of the width. Kind of like if you look at the site Medium, for example, it's very narrow. You have to have nice clean fonts. And then we do a lot of very short paragraphs, 1-2 sentences, just to try to keep the reader's attention. And yeah, images is great. You got to break up the text. You have to understand that readers like to skim. People like to skim, so we use a lot of subheadings just to keep their attention, and that's okay. You can't prevent people from skimming if they just want to go down to a thing. So there's lots of little things to try to keep people on the page that you can't overlook. And a really bad example would be just really big blocks of content. And if people look at it like, whoa, I don't want to read this. And so a lot of those little things and that seem logical and simple, but people often overlook because they're either used to writing how they did in college, but it's a little different writing for web and all our short attention spans that we have nowadays.
Got it. Great. When we talk about YouTube, we talk about social media. A lot has to do with engagement with the post. So when we make blog posts, does that is that taken into account? What kind of comments people are leaving and what kind of engagement that piece of article, a piece of text has?
Yeah, I think on the really popular blogs where people are commenting and engaging. I mean, one, it's obviously a great community that's been established on that website, and then two, Google can actually pick up some of the comments in their index. So sometimes people will leave really thoughtful comments and they'll have keywords in there just naturally, natural language, and that helps. And that will help the page rank. And you see sites that have hundreds and hundreds of comments and that is amazing community. And my site's never had the luxury of having that many comments. It's like we get a handful every once in a while, or somebody saying that was terrible. But it's nice to encourage comments. I mean, if you can encourage some kind of community on your site, then that means you're doing something right. But negative or positive feedback is good, for any business. I think the negative comments are especially the most important because it tells you what people are saying. I mean, most people will just pat you on the back and say you're doing great, but it's the ones who don't that sometimes have the best advice. So yeah, I mean, I like content. For our WordPress sites, we use Disqus. It's called spelled like a DISQUS, I think is the software we use for comments.
Great. And now let's talk about your journey. So, SEO is a very competitive field. You must be facing competition from overseas vendors and whatnot. So how do you acquire your clients? What is your strategy to beat the competition and grow your agency?
Sure. We have a bit of a 3-tier strategy, and it's kind of evolved over time. It's always kind of changing because just like you said, it's very competitive and there's a lot of different brands out there. But one of the main things that we did, which is kind of the same thing that we do for our clients, is we just got out there and got in front of other websites, kind of like this. Like, I have the opportunity to be featured with you. Thank you. And you'll have a link to my site, and that's me getting mentioned, Digital Elevator getting mentioned, and Daniel Lofaso getting mentioned. So that's a link for me. That's a win. It's like a vote for Google. And, I did a lot of that initially. I reached out to websites, say, hey, I have this topic that I want to write about, and would you be interested in it? And they say, sure. And if it gets published, then I get to say, hey, I got featured on Search Engine Journal, or I got featured on Moz or whatnot. And that helps me rank, and also helps me get visible on third-party websites, right? So that was one angle that we took initially. and that we ranked, we started to get some traction and feedback like that, and built up our website so that we could potentially rank for other content. The second thing we did was we spent a lot of time actually trying to rank locally in West Palm Beach here, and we were successful at that and started to rank number one for SEO, and then we started ranking pretty well for web design services. So I mean, West Palm is not an incredibly big city. I think Palm Beach County is about a little over 1 million people, but it's enough to keep the phone ringing. There's plenty of business here. Smaller cities might not have the luxury for smaller agency cities, but so that was the thing, basically SEOing for ourselves. And then the third thing we've been doing more of, and giving away my secret sauce to other agencies, but that's okay, is we're just starting to pay to get featured on different kind of directory sites. So then that's kind of just spreading it out, and we're getting in front of bigger clients that way, which is nice. Instead of, sometimes if you stay too local, you're basically just restricted to the size of the companies that are in your locale. But when you get featured on these other sites and people see you, you start getting much larger companies with bigger budgets, and you don't win them all, but it certainly helps to get leads and put proposals out there. So that's been what we're doing. And kind of along those things, we do content marketing. I have a YouTube that we try to produce a video every once in a while. It's been a while, but we were doing one a month, and that was pretty cool. We started to get some decent comments on there, and a couple of people to comment and whatnot. But and then just getting out there and networking, going to events, and I was on the board of directors for Palm Beach Tech here, which is a local tech organization. Uh-huh. And we have a lot of tech events and things like that. So I was trying to be an ambassador of the brand and meeting people and doing some startup mentoring too, just free, trying to give some advice away and help people out and just get your name out there. So I continue to kind of do all those things. I'd say definitely we've been spending more money lately on advertising than we ever did. Rather than just doing strictly kind of organic grassroots marketing, we're actually spending money on different outlets and testing different things to see kind of the same way that we practice what we preach with our clients. It doesn't always work. Everything doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to spend money and then say that didn't work and then try the next thing. So, it really makes you resonate with your clients who are scared to spend money. You're like, hey, we're doing the same thing. Just trust us. We'll figure it out. You got to figure out something because it's a really propel their business. Yeah. So those are the main things that we're doing.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. And now, before I let you go, can you tell us how people can reach out, how they can get in touch with you for your services?
Yeah, sure. The best way is through the website at thedigitalelevator.com, or you can email me directly at dan@thedigitalelevator.com, and follow us on we have a YouTube that is kind of in its early stages, Digital Elevator there, but I have a big Twitter presence, but I don't use it anymore, so I wouldn't say that. So I'd say the email or the website contact form on the website. We have a live chat on there as well, and you can get through me there. I'm pretty accessible.
Awesome, great. We'll add those links to the show notes so that people can reach out easily.
Fantastic.
And now, thanks a lot for being with us today, sharing a lot of information about SEO and digital marketing, content marketing. It's been an amazing episode, and I'm sure everybody in the audience got a lot of value out of it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
And that's all for now. Until next time. And if you're an existing or an aspiring tech entrepreneur, then I invite you to check out my new online workshop, Bootstrapping Your Tech Startup Dreams. Go to bootstraptechstartup.com and sign up for free. I want to make sure that more successful and sound decisions are made every day in your tech projects. Let's start finding solutions to your problems. So go to bootstraptechstartup.com, and I look forward to helping you with your tech projects. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.